Covering news where you live. This is 5 News.
Well, thank you for joining us here today for the latest news where you live. I'm Joe Ellison. Before we get to our top headlines, we need a check of the weather with meteorologist Zach Scott. Zach, we're preparing for an Arctic blast headed our way.
Yeah, and you got 2 more days to do that. You got today, you got Wednesday, and then the cold air is going to be hitting us by Thursday morning, 5, 6, 7 a.m. That's when that front's going to likely start to cut into northwestern Arkansas, northeastern Oklahoma, and then eventually it'll push all the way through our southeastern zone, Scott, Logan, Johnson counties by 11 a.m. We do have winter storm watch. We've got to watch that potential. But what we do have right now is wind chill watch for northwest Arkansas. That's Benton, Washington, Madison, Carroll counties from Huntsville to Eureka Springs to Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville. Wind chill. Oh, dang it. Can I redo it?
Yeah, if you want to start over.
Yeah, I'll.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News.
Well, thank you for joining us here today for the latest news where you live. I'm Joe Ellison. Before we get to our top headlines, we need a check of the weather with meteorologist Zach Scott. Zach, we're preparing for an Arctic blast this week.
Yeah, Joe, you got 2 more days to get ready. Winterize your home, winterize your car, and again, just get your mindset ready that we're going to deal with some really cold weather for a couple of days. Not going to be extended 6, 7, 8 days like what we saw in February 2021, but we're going to have Thursday. It's going to be freezing outside, below freezing. We're going to be talking about temperatures dipping below 0. Friday is going to be a cold day. Saturday will be a cold day. Sunday, Christmas Day, we could finally get back above freezing. So 3-4 days we got to watch there. We do have wind chill watches out for northwest Arkansas, Benton, Washington, Madison, Carroll counties, Delaware, Adair, and Sequoia counties there into portions of eastern Oklahoma. These areas right now have the best chance Thursday, especially by late morning and then through the day Thursday, overnight, and into Friday morning to see wind chills. Feels like temperatures -20 to -30 degrees. Okay, so we're going to be talking about winds picking up behind the front, 30 to 40 miles per hour. That'll last all day Thursday night, and to start the day on Friday. In those conditions, you could get frostbite as quickly as or as little as 30 minutes if you've got just exposed skin outside for too long. So keep that in mind. Again, you've got today, we've got 40s, 50s, partly cloudy skies, little north breeze about 5 to 15 miles per hour, 20s to 30s, quiet night going into Wednesday, scattered clouds, and then we get into Wednesday, 40s, 50s, last day to prepare yourselves for the cold air. Again, that's going to be heading our way. We're going to see that cold front coming in as early as 5, 6 a.m. northwest Arkansas. This is Thursday morning. Here comes the front. Could see some snow with it, maybe even a little drizzle or some showers out in front, but we're going to transition quickly to all snow because you're going to see pretty much a 20-degree drop from one side of the front to the other side, going from the upper 30s. That'll be our highs early in the morning Thursday. Temperatures continue to fall. Best chance for accumulating snow, it's going to be definitely across the northern half of the area, north of I-40, and throughout the morning hours into the early afternoons. Visibility could really be reduced here with the blowing snow, the high winds. Look at that, north winds 30 to 40 miles per hour. Okay, so by 5 o'clock, we're down to around 0 northwest Arkansas. You are in the single digits across the river valley. It is going to be bone-chilling cold outside. And then by 10 o'clock, below 0 northwest Arkansas, close to 0 in the river valley. Talk about those snow totals again. Overall, we're looking at a dusting to up to an inch across the southern half, near and south of I-40. And then we'll have better chances for some accumulating snow the further north you go. You're talking northwest Arkansas, overall 1 to 3 inches with some locally higher amounts possible, especially as you get closer to the Missouri border. A lot going on here between the cold and the snow. Again, the biggest impacts here, Joe, the biggest headline should be the cold that's going to be around for a couple of days. Yeah, we're going to have the snow. We're going to track that out, and that'll give us some slick travel. But again, the cold is what we really need to be the most prepared for.
All right, thanks so much, Zach. Now, with that winter weather he was talking about, it comes on one of the busiest travel weeks of the year. AAA projecting 112 million people will travel for the holidays. And if you're one of those planning to hit the road, it's important to start preparing now.
Our biggest piece of advice to folks when we do see winter weather is, of course, if you can stay home, do that. Give the road crews a chance to clear off the roads, put salt down, whatever's needed. So, certainly with Thursday's anticipated winter precip, if you were planning to travel that day and you're able to modify your travel plans, that's probably going to be your best bet.
Now, RDOT says they will pre-treat those roads ahead of that storm, that winter system coming through. And we're learning when people can say their final goodbyes to Benton County Detective Paul Newell. You'll remember he passed away over the weekend as part of a motorcycle escort for Wreaths Across America. A memorial service is happening the morning of Wednesday, December 28th. That'll be at 10:30 in the morning there at the Cross Church in Rogers. The burial will happen immediately after in Maysville. As the community mourns the loss, we had a chance to speak to first responders in Benton County who say the death is hitting home.
That's a law enforcement thing. I mean, they're in this job to be there for the community, for community outreach, to support the community, to protect the community.
And this right here is a look at that growing memorial honoring Detective Newell's service that's outside the Benton County Sheriff's Office. The public is invited to attend next Wednesday's memorial service in Rogers. We also have those details full at 5newsonline.com. And a police officer from Stuttgart, Arkansas was laid to rest. A funeral held Monday for Sergeant Donald Scobie. He was shot and killed last week while chasing a suspect. Sergeant Scobie was 45 years old and had been with the Stuttgart police for 4 years. Before that, he worked at the fire department there. He's survived by his mother, his wife, and 4 children. Well, shortly after the January 6th committee hearing voted to the recommendation for Donald Trump's role in trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election, Vice Chair of the January 6th committee, Liz Cheney, made a stop in Northwest Arkansas. 5 News reporter Michael Wilson was at this event that discussed her career and the Constitution. Take a look.
Yeah, just hours after those recommendations were released, Congresswoman Cheney hopped on a plane and came here to speak at Crystal Bridges. And a major part of that discussion was former President Donald Trump and the January 6th Capitol riot.
Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
Moments after receiving a standing ovation from a sold-out crowd of about 600 plus, Wyoming's Congresswoman and Vice Chair of the January 6th House Committee, Liz Cheney, wasted no time to speak about the committee's recommendation and closing arguments.
You have to hold those who were responsible for January 6th accountable. There has to be accountability.
She said it's needed to make sure nothing like January 6th happens on U.S. soil again.
It just never occurred in the United States, certainly since the Civil War, that we wouldn't have a peaceful transfer of power.
The Congresswoman said the committee was nonpartisan and its primary focus was defending the U.S. Constitution.
You know, the facts led to criminal referrals for the former President of the United States. Trump preyed on their patriotism in so many ways. He preyed on people's patriotism and he turned it into a weapon.
And she adds, now more than ever, we need to turn to and rely on the Constitution.
It is a shield for us. We are not a perfect nation, but the only way that we make progress towards becoming a more perfect union is through the foundational documents of the Republic.
And while Congresswoman Cheney was the last speaker in this series, the exhibit runs through January 2nd. In Bentonville, covering news where you live, Michael Wilson, 5 News.
All right, thank you, Micah. Now, as illness continues to spread, it can be hard to tell the difference between the flu, COVID, and RSV. But there are symptoms that signal one illness over the other. Lexi Wilson spoke to doctors to find out the keys to figuring out which virus you may have.
The triple-demic of the flu, COVID, and RSV is still spreading.
We are continuing to see higher than normal visit volumes and demand across the board.
They can have all or some of the same symptoms like a fever, cough, or runny nose.
If somebody in your family has a runny nose, congestion, cough, rather than assuming it's allergies, which are very common in this area as well, at this time of year, given what we're seeing in the community, probably better to assume that is the start of something that's infectious.
While most doctors will rely on a lab test to tell the difference in the virus, there are subtle differences. But let's start with the cold. You will not have a headache and body aches or wheezing. With RSV, you will not have a sore throat or headache and body aches.
RSV also tends to stick to surfaces more, and so it's easier to pass through touching a surface and then spreading it from there.
Meanwhile, the flu and COVID have all symptoms of fever, sore throat, cough and congestion, body aches, and wheezing. But no matter which virus you are dealing with, you should seek immediate medical care if your child experiences trouble breathing.
Well, that was Lexi Wilson reporting. Now, for the first Christmas season since the pandemic began, the CDC says our whole viewing area in Arkansas and Oklahoma is at a low risk for COVID-19 infections. The highest risk areas of Arkansas right now are in central Arkansas and to the east of Little Rock. And as we near Christmas, the Salvation Army's month-long Red Kettle donation drive is quickly coming to an end. But this year hasn't resulted in the number of donations as in years past. Officials with the Salvation Army in Fort Smith and Northwest Arkansas tell us COVID has been a factor in the number of donations. While COVID was in full force, surprisingly, both saw donations increase. But as things have begun to taper off, so too have those donations. As a result, both areas plan for another down year. But entering the final week of bell ringing, seeing a nearly $55,000 decrease wasn't expected. In Northwest Arkansas, Major Nick Garrison says the Salvation Army is down $45,000 from this time last year due to a shortage of manpower. Captain Bradley Hargis of Fort Smith Salvation Army says he believes inflation has been the main cause.
We're ringing about 5 to 6 extra locations every day, making roughly the same of what we did last year. And I know as the season's kind of progressed forward Christmas, we actually have made less and less every day, not more, which is actually the opposite of what it typically should do. You should make more the closer you get to Christmas.
Bell ringers will continue to be out collecting donations until midday Christmas Eve. And today from 8 until 1:30, there will be a Red Kettle drive at the Joey McCutcheon Law Office. Well, those are some of your top stories on this Tuesday. I'm Joe Ellison. Make sure to catch up with us again tomorrow right here for more news and weather. Have a great day.